there is a slide which I have added about Chandrayaan-2 mission. I think this looks a little off the way, but I think I thought that our project or startup projects are nothing less than Chandrayaan-2 mission projects. See, it happened that Chandrayaan-2 mission, which was a talk of everybody's, a talk of everybody, and the entire nation was involved into it. And it was in July 2019, 2nd July 19, that Chandrayaan-2 mission started with the launching of a GSLV. So after about 14 days, after reaching in about 30 days in the lunar orbit, it landed into that on 2nd September 2019. After about 14 days, Vikram lander, which was supposed to bring in the Pragyan, what you call explorer, to the moon surface. That separated from the main orbit, and then it moved towards the moon surface. I think on about 16th, on 6th September, that means after about 4 days, it reached the moon's near about moon surface. Just it was about 2.1 kilometers or something from the moon surface. Then suddenly, in about the last 15 minutes, when the Voyager was to be when the Pragyan was to be, was to be landed on the moon surface, just 15 minutes before, and when they were just about 600 meters, 600 meters, that thing crashed. It means, imagine the kind of disappointment which happened. Disappointment, I think every one of us, citizens of India, including Prime Minister, the project director, Mr. Sivan, everybody was disappointed like anything. Now in this process, what do we learn? We learned that success could be this. We could be missing success to this extent. And what amount of disappointment, several worth of, millions of dollars gone into it, so many people working on it. So what I'm trying to say, it can happen with your business. Despite so meticulous planning and so much of resources and all that kind of thing, things can go haywire, and even in the last minute. So that means, in case of a startup, if this happens, what will happen? You will be nowhere. So what the lesson which we are getting is that we need to be prepared for this kind of things. That after all the rigmarole, after so much of a struggle, then at the last minute something goes wrong and then you are crushed. So nevertheless, but this is the kind of fears or threats or the kind of risks you are raising. So in business, there is a risk. In startups also, business, there is a risk. Now, the proper management of the risk, that is what is required, and that is what is required to make the business plan successful. Now, coming to the real text now, see what happens is any business, any startup business particularly will have uh, 3-4 phases. One is the slide concerned is business stages. So there is a preparation stage. Now in preparation stage means when we formulation of business idea, then its analysis, documentation, idea evaluation, and pilot scale trials, planning a regular size business. Now this is what we call is preparation stage. Then comes the implementation stage. When you implementation is remains, it incorporates resource mobilization like technology, equipment, infrastructure, utilities, manpower, and finance. Then you implement the project. That means you set up the project. So we assimilate all the resources and set up the facility. Then comes the stage which I would call stabilization. Stabilization means commissioning of the facility, trial runs, modifications, and all that kind of thing. And then only after a certain period of all these trial runs, you come to stability, a stable kind of operation. So your facility, which is planned for a particular production capacity or something, uh, it runs on without flawless. I mean, it runs flawless and without any, with full capacity, what you have planned, and without any troubles. So that is the process, stage of phase of stabilization. And then comes growth. Growth is when you have stabilized into business, you have started accumulating some resources, and based on that, your phase of growth starts. Now, these are the four phases of growth which are required. Now, let us see that why I am trying to tell this. Because the risk of, the level of risk in all these phases is very different. Now, I think in the preparation phase, implementation phase, risk is very high. But as a startup, what happens is ki in the high risk, perhaps the investment requirement, preparation phase, investment requirement is not much. Some kind of a return is possible. If you don't want to do project, okay, doesn't matter, you can come back, still you can hold. If it is when the project is under implementation, your investment is already committed and under execution. So in that case, there is, the risk is still higher, and there is no point of return. I mean, you cannot go back. You have to somehow do it. Or if you give up, I think you are you are losing many things. Then when you come to stabilization phase, you have set up the facility, your I mean, but your return or getting backing out of the project, that does not seem desirable. And growth, so I think you have already satisfied all the I think criteria of setting up the business. So there is no point in return of, there is no desirability of returning from it. So ultimately, what it means is that efficient risk management is essential for winning the formula, winning the game, or winning is the most winning formula for any business, or particularly for a startup. Now, here are, so our whole effort should be to reduce the risk at every stage of business. Then only we will be successful. Now, I think what I am trying to do is, now I am coming to the real tips, that how and when in different project stages we can prepare ourselves, and we can, prepare ourselves, and then, minimize our risk of losing the business. First tip is determination. Tip number one is determination. Determination means, I have seen in my interaction with the startups that, sometimes, they are just, for the sake of maybe having a assignment in the class or in the college, or maybe I just want to do some business, because somebody else is doing, so you want to do business, these kind of things. And or if somebody is doing and he is successful, you are saying, I must also do this. Now these are the kind of mindset you are having, but these are all very casual things. It is not sufficient to be a startup businessman. So such half-hearted efforts will not fructify into successful business. It's a very long, arduous journey where only fittest will survive. So what I'm trying to say is that study the past of your role models. Whoever is your role model of the successful entrepreneur, I mean, take that. Like, so for example, I think I found that this kind of firm determination, with, I think, lot of struggles and, what you call, shortcomings and all that. Like, I found that in Zoom, Eric Yuan of Zoom, that we are using this facility now. He came to, in 2012, he went to USA, as a communication startup. But I think he just thought of an idea ki it should be, it was his, Zoom was his daydream idea kind of thing. And but despite all kinds of disturbances and all that kind of thing, it was only in 2019, that is after 7 years, and he was successful in creating Zoom. So it's not an easy thing which can happen, but it was his sheer determination which continued him into his mission. And then finally we see that his success and we are using it. Similarly, I think Apple is another thing which continued success, with full determination. It has happened. Then, for example, I think I also have an example of Paytm's Vijay Shekhar Sharma. Paytm was launched in 2010 when he was struggling even to make his both ends meet. So, and today in 2019, his business is worth about 15 billion. Now, this is the kind of determination. When you don't have resources, when you don't have these kind of things, still you are very sincere about your project and you are carrying it with full perseverance. The second tip, so be determined and be prepared for a very long struggle. Short term will not work. Then promoter, then, if you have a business idea, I mean, you need to check also whether you are fit to be an entrepreneur, whether you are fit to be a startup. So I think normally when I am interacting with the startups for any project ideas, I think first I try to do is their promoter SWOT. That means I carry out their SWOT analysis. What do they have and what do they don't have? Like strength could be, their qualifications, experience, industry knowledge. Weakness could be that they may not have any industry experience and they may lack resources. These are very common kind of general points. Then opportunity related to their strengths. Now, threats, lack of expertise. Now, look forward to, now these are the kind of, he has to analyze that what he has and what he doesn't have. So he has to do something which he can leverage his strengths and try to fill in the gap of his shortcomings through different kind of association, or look forward to different kind of things which can help him filling that gap. Now uh, I think for example, that very high conviction, like I found in one example, Zuckerberg of Facebook, they were so clear about their idea and they were so confident of their technological prowess that they dropped out of Harvard University in a bid to make Facebook a success. And now that is the kind of determination, that is the kind of, they realized their strength and they went out. Then the next is that to carry out a business SWOT, like whatever project or business idea you are having, carry out a similar SWOT on that also. It is very essential because first of all, you have assessed your quality to be a determined startup. Second is key, you have to carry out that what project you are proposing. It is not just like anything, it has got certain meaning. So similarly, we talk about the strength about project features, locations, weakness, technology, cost disadvantages, opportunities like marketing gaps, threats, competition from similar techniques, etc. Now, these are the kind of things one should study and see that whether that project idea makes sense or where are the gaps. So this is essential to know the gaps and also to firm up your business idea. So try to get rectification of your business idea and then do it. Then the another important tip number 4 is about creating product differentiation. Now, in my opinion, a startup is a startup. I mean, he doesn't have that kind of resources. He doesn't have that kind of expertise, but still he wants to be in the business. He wants to be out in the business world. Now, it is possible that the idea which is promoting, uh, it's already people must be existing there. I mean, it must be there. Now, unless you find a product differentiation, you will not be able to stand in the market unless when you enter it. I will give you a very interesting example that I think one of the tea projects, I think, which we are having, in that it so happened that simply, some kind of tea, somebody came and with that idea, that tea is there and he wants to do business, it's a good tea and all that, it is fine. But on analysis, or when we did this short analysis of the project, we realized that it is an age-old business. People are there in centuries, they are well established. Names anything, Twinings, Tatas, and all kinds of people are there, and it is there. So what is that? How are you going to Wagh Bakri, things like that? How do you get into this market? And then when you are a startup, when you don't have any skill of business, when you don't have any resources, when you don't have that kind of resources even to promote your project, so what do? I mean, then there is a need to create a product differentiation. So how do we do that? You studied the project product qualities in detail, minutely, and then you realize that what they are trying to sell, I mean, there is a possibility that you make this product in a very different way. Like, what I'm trying to say is, like, whole leaf you give it in a whole life form. Now all these green tea things which are coming in the packet, they are all, you don't know what is what. It is just something, in the sachet you have, and then it's all, a powder mixed kind of thing. But you don't see the real leaf into it. And that is where we got the product differentiation, and we could place our product accordingly. Nobody else is doing it, and that provides us the leverage, or that provides us the what you call a gateway into the market, and without any competition with any of them. This is what I call is product differentiation. I have seen that because most of these startup projects are like that only. They have some idea, but so many people are there. When they are out in the market, they have very tough competition to have. Resources are not there. So the only way you can face the competition in the market is with product differentiation. There are some other examples also of it. I will not like to take more on that, but this is how this is happening. Then another tip is about tip number 5, that is about microscopic planning. It is all startups by and large, whenever they have a project idea or when they are taught by incubators, what happens is they are asked to study the data. What we call is desk research, web research, desk research, net research. And then you try to find out that what is, what kind of potential is there. So much in the world is happening, a potential lies. It is selling this much in the world. In India, this much potential is there. And all that kind of things are happening. Now, but this is all okay. This shows that the potential is there. But does it guarantee the feasibility in the market? Or does it guarantee your viability or entry into the market? No, because I have seen cases with all kinds of good planning like this. At the last minute, when you are reaching the customer, you are not able to effect the transaction. It is something like the Chandrayaan kind of situation, where you have gone through all the way, and then suddenly in the last 600 meters, you are crash landing. Now, imagine the kind of risk which a startup is running. That poor fellow, he will be nowhere. I mean, his disappointment will be, like anything. So, to avoid all these kind of things, what is required is go into that detail. Go into that detail. It is fine studying this research, data, these, that fine. No, but go into the market, talk to the customers who are potential your customers, find out which are the channels in the market which you can do. And these are the kind of things which will help you. I think that I've got certain other examples also for that. Like, for example, I would give one of our existing clients is there. I don't mind mentioning them. But what has happened is that we wanted to get into, we realized that there are big wigs in the water purifier market. And then in water purifier market, I mean, everybody is doing it, but still, I mean, we find that there is something wrong with it. And something wrong with it is, on analysis, we found they are all giving acidic water. Technologies have much changed. What your body needs is alkaline water, not acidic water. And there is none in the market which is giving you alkaline water. That is where we realize that the gap is there. And how it happened? It happened because we consulted the customers, we consulted the trade channel, and we realized this is something wrong which is happening. And that is how we started. And I'm happy to say that it has been a very successful, one of the very successful project, and it's doing very well. So go to the last detail. I remember, I think in one another example, which to explain this, I think somebody tried to bring in the technology from USA, entertainment technology, and that, which is based on, songs, Hindi songs and all that kind of thing. So much of investment band, the machineries were brought in, equipment, all that thing happened. But then the last minute was that to run or operate those songs in the machine, you require license, and license from, say, like people who are holding the rights, like T series or things like that. Unless you pay them royalty, or unless you pay them something, I mean, you will not be able to run it. And when we reached that level, I mean, we realized that the asking for the royalty is so high that we will not be able to sustain even one machine. So, I mean, this is how it can happen. But this is a lesson you have learned. Now, same thing I'm trying to tell you, that please go through, don't depend yourself fully on this desk research data, net data, all that kind of it's not going to help you. It will only tell you why this much is there. But can I get even a fraction of it or iota of it? How they can do it? I can do it only when I know that what is required to be done at that last level. So this is becomes another thing very important. Then I think that next point is tip number 6, phase-wise implementation. I think I have got some clients with me even now. I mean, they think that project somebody has done at this level, so we should also do it at that level. It really does not happen. It does not help. Because imagine when you are without any experience of running a project, you are not having adequate resources. How can you think of putting up a full-scale project? It is not possible. It is out of your reach. It is out of your resources. So means you definitely need to plan. You need to plan your project implementation phases. There is no harm in it. I mean, there is no harm in it, because it is possible. Ultimate aim should be to see the project comes up. And who says that it has to be done at once only in one go? No, it is not. The real best manageable strategy is go in phases. So like, first of all, go into a pilot kind of a project. Do pilot testing. See that project you can at a very small scale, minimum, bare minimum kind of capacity level, technically feasible capacity level. You try test that project and then see that it works, it does not work. I think thereby you will also know where are the gaps in the project, either in resource requirement or technical requirements or whatever. But you will know the your shortcomings. So that gives us an opportunity to improve upon that and make a very perfect business idea. Then it is also there. This also reduces the promoter's risk. And why not? I mean, that amount of investment or expenses which have gone into the pilot project setting up, there is very little. So in case, even if you fail and if you give up the project, you lose very minimum of amounts. So I will always advise, first go into a pilot project and then only proceed. Then comes, once that is done, then okay, then you move into the other phase. You try to, little, scale up the project, make it to a desirable capacity. And then, once again, you have checked that your desirable capacity has been fulfilled. And then comes the growth. So here the another suggestion is also that whenever you are trying to set up a project, not only this pilot project, but set up a unit, a module, make it a modular unit. So when you when you want to add up your capacity, build up capacity, or when you want to grow, simply you are taking that modular module and then replicating it, adding it to the previous one, and like this 1, 2, 3, 4 you are getting. And I think that is the best way of doing it. And it is a very, so you are increasing the capacity, your investment resources, as and when the market is demanding, or as and when you are able to succeed into the business. So this is, I think, another suggestion I would like to do. So make beginnings always small. Don't feel shy about it. Everybody has started small. It is not you. I mean, think about, say, Dhirubhai Ambani or Karsanbhai Ambani, or maybe Amazon, or maybe Facebook, any kind of thing. All these people have started very small. I mean, almost, for example, I think Mark Zuckerberg, he started from his dormitory where he was studying. I mean, these are the kind of things which have happened. They have worked at level. So even if you want to make Mark Zuckerberg your role model, get into his past and see that what he did in the beginning. He did like this. So what is the problem? I mean, you also can do it like that. But this is a way, I mean, you will be successful. Then comes the pilot testing. As I said earlier, I will highly recommend setting up pilot projects, or maybe, prototypes and things like that, testing them, because I think that will really convince about the project's feasibility, and also testing the project with minimum resources and mainly finance, etc. But these are the kind of things which you need. Can you believe that Dhirubhai Ambani set up a textile mill, or as a started trading company in 1958, and only in 1992 he reached Forbes 500 list. Similarly, Nirma was launched in 1969 with initial making in background of, I mean, he did the making of the detergent in his background, backyard of his house. So these are the kind of, and sold door to door, himself. Now these are the kind of things which have happened. So there is nothing wrong, and there I mean, that proof is there that all these strategies have worked. Now, another important is that promoter equity first. This is something very misconception, uh, very prominent, prominent against among all these startups. They feel that they have got a project and they will go full scale and millions of dollars will come into their fold and they will be able to start their project without any equity. Now, these are the kind of situations I am really feeling it with some of the startups. But it is totally a misconception and it is wrong to think like that. Because, I mean, without, how do you think that people will lend you money with all that kind of, without your experience, without your knowledge, without having proved your project's feasibility? How do you expect usually? Even government doesn't do it. For example, I mean, you think that Startup India benefits, you go through that kit. It says that financial institutions insist on 10 to 25% margin money depending on project category. So you are not getting 100% from them, 25% or जो भी the gap है, whatever, मतलब 10 to 25%. I mean, you have to bring your own. So remember that. Second is कि you think that IPR benefit is given in startup as a startup. Now, what happens is that government is bearing only 80% of the cost of patents, filing patents, and 50% of the cost of trademark application. It means that you have to bring in 20% and 50% of even this. It doesn't come from government just like that. Or even tax, so these are the kind of things which are really there. So don't think you can start with zero promoters equity. No, it is not feasible. And everyone in the past has done it. So, you have to be ready. And if you don't have any promoters equity into it, means what is your risk? Nobody will believe you. Particularly the lenders and all that financiers, they will not believe you. What is your risk? Nothing. Tomorrow, if you want to give up the project, what do you lose? Nothing. But they lose everything. So, understand the kind of mindset with lenders and all that kind of thing. So, be prepared. Do bring in my assessment, or to come to to start a star project. Anywhere between 3 to 5 lakhs is a promoter's equity. That is my practical experience tells me that you must be prepared to bring in your 5 to 7, not at a time, maybe as the project goes on, but you must be ready to spend this much. Then only you will be able to prove the feasibility of your project. You will be able to prove your credentials and sincerity about the project, and only then you can expect others also to confide or have confidence in your project. Then comes tip number 9, prioritize your spending. This is another very common kind of thinking in startups. It says that prioritize your spending. What happens is that, okay, like any other corporate, you must have an office, you must have all kind of good furniture, good computer, these, that, and all kinds of good infrastructure setup is there. And then only they will be able to, and they feel that this is a prerequisite. No, it is not. On the contrary, it is wastage of your funds, or rather diverting it, it is putting it to unproductive assets. No, that is not desirable. Do it when you have earned, do it when you have grown, but don't do it to begin with. In the beginning, you need all the pennies, all the resources to set up the project, make it feasible. Do that first. For example, I think in one case which I am mentioning, they are students, engineering students. and kind of thing. But they are feeling that they should have a proper office, they should have a proper setup, they should have proper sitting arrangement, they should have proper uh, all this kind of thing is required. Now, I know for sure it is not required. You have to think in the ways how you can minimize. What we call it in India, that jugaad is required. Instead of hiring instead of hiring an office, I would like to hire one. I think that will reduce my expenditure or investment in project. Or even now, I think COVID has further proved it that you don't need it. Why do you need the office? I think I just a few days back I was reading Mr. Chandrasekhar of TCS. He says that COVID has proved that work from home is a very good system, very efficient, and you can get more out of it rather than people. Why 75? Only you need 25% people in office. Rest 75% people have to work from home. Now that is the kind of new thinking which is coming in. So please, when you are in a startup, try to squeeze as much as possible. Economize, be miser in everything. That is what is going to help you. Like I think some example, like as I said that Nirma Karsanbhai started from backyard of his house. Bijos, he created own personal laboratory in his house garage. Mark Zuckerberg, as I said earlier, launched Facebook from his dormitory room. Now, so I mean, what is the problem? I mean, they didn't have anything, but still they were sincere about their project. So they went through all these difficulties and came out. Now, then tip number 10 is provide for delay and unforeseen cost. Now, this is something, I mean, this is something which I think people should know. Okay, on paper, we have worked out a certain feasibility, project cost, and all that kind of thing, but it never happens. Projects are always bound to have delays in time, and if there is delay in time, there is associated cost to it and cost overruns. So concentrate on that. Concentrate on that, and first of all, try to manage that whatever is your resource level, whatever is your time level, use a PERT chart or things like that kind of technologies and management systems, and then see to it that how you can implement the project or commission the project before that before the target date. Now that will really help you. It will help you in minimizing your project cost. It will help you early revenue generation and things like that. So that is another thing. For example, I think with our kind of with working with that our accelerator services, what we realize is when we have rolled in experience and that learning together, it is reducing project implementation time by all, sometimes as much as 50%, sometimes 60%, and maybe 30-40%, but it is definitely bringing in a project this thing, reducing project delays. And because of that, I think there are definitely reduction in the estimated cost. So I would also advise that when you are, suppose I'm in my slide, I have made it very clear. Suppose if you have a budget of X amount, then on your actual project cost, you plan to spend only 80% of it, and keep that 20% separate, because whenever there is a delay, whenever there are unforeseen expenses coming into, you are able to use that 20% reserve. Now this is something we have seen in real life, even in big projects. Now, suddenly when you find that all your spending it is gone into, and then still you are left with little bit of, project implementation phase, then what do? You are stuck. The project gets stalled there itself. Now the entire 80% investment which has gone into it, it is all become unproductive, and that cannot be tolerated. So this is a tip, very good tip, that please, if you have a budget of X, plan to spend only 80%, keep 20% in reserve. That will help you in your difficult times. Then comes the tip number 11. Tip number 11, and that is success. Uh, Success has its own time. So, I mean, this is also true. As I said in the beginning, that it takes little time. I think, in my opinion, about 3 years is a very good time slot, in which, which every startup should provide for it. And even for generally for other businesses also, I've seen that from this thing, about 3 years is a fairly good period when you should be able to manage your project or bring it to a good, feasible, stable project level. Now, uh, I think Dhirubhai took about 1958 to 19, about 30 years to reach certain level. Karsanbhai, he reached about 50 years or 40 years to reach this kind of a level. Mark Zuckerberg also, I think he took about 2004, 2019 to reach 60. I mean, so 15 years, I mean, their time period is there. So don't be impatient. Don't think that you are unsuccessful. But business does have its own time period to fructify, to test, and to grow, and to come to a stable state. And then next tip is about be prepared for a failure. Now, this is something which has to be kept in mind. Always, I mean, when we are planning for success. We are preparing a project report for success. But we are not preparing ourselves for a failure. In the management, I think the best case is that you prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. When everything is down, then what happens to a project? If you know even that much, that what will happen to your project when everything is going adverse, I think that mentally prepares you to face that kind of a failure. And so, if anything more than that, you are still comfortable, mentally comfortable, and you will not feel what you call disappointed and things like that. So please keep it in mind. There is a definite period you have to struggle, you have to carry on for this long. There is no shortcut to it. It has to be there. That I think Charan, crash landing is a very good example of it. Then comes the outsource your expertise. I think that is tip number 13. Now, I think you always don't feel that by taking, you have done your SWOT analysis of yourself, you have done SWOT analysis of your project. Now you know your gaps. So if you are short of some, say maybe technical competency, try to find out some other people, I mean your colleagues or things like that, I mean who are good at it, and try to involve them into your project. How you associate it, once again, it's a entrepreneur skill, but please do it. And then take outside expertise and help into it. I think similarly, there are our iHub, SSIP, our TIE provide so much of big platform where you can find so many people who can serve you as mentor, who can serve you as guide, who can do and all that. Don't hesitate to do it, but do it. The only objective you should have, your project success. That is the ultimate aim. And for that, whatever you want to bring in, please do bring in outside talent. There is no problem about it. Now, the last and very important tip is tip number 14. Secure self and family. Now, for your peace of mind and for peace of your family life, I think it is very essential that security of self and family is very important. This is a lesson which have been taught to one of our bosses who have been very successful in their, you know, life as professionals. But I think we felt that over a period of these many years, I realized that yes, this is a very, very important part of life. Unless you are at peace with your family, with yourself, you cannot engage into a battle which is so arduous, which is so long, and which is so difficult, and which you have to fight all alone. So, I mean, don't think it. So, peace of mind at home is very essential for to be successful, for peace, for to be successful in the business battlefield. So this is my this thing, and that last is a kind of a, it's not a tip, but it's an advice. It's a, I think I will not be able to share details of it, but what we call is a corporate environment management. This is my own concept, which I have been trying to promote for many years with different and using it for this. Now this is over and above the kind of project requirements we have or inputs we have talked about. If so far we have been worrying about production, marketing, finance, labor, and these, that, you know, for all these inputs to run our project or to set up our project. But there are few other things which are equally important and which you must keep in mind and know them very well. And this is, so this is what I'm calling is the corporate environment. And there are forces like government, administration, judiciary, investor, facilitators, rivals, media, society, religion, and all that. Now, I mean, it may not make an immediate sense to you, but give a little thought to it. Try to see that which is the one which is relevant to you. Where do they affect you? Because any of these can adversely affect your business at any stage, at any phase of the project. So it's better to know the enemies and also be prepared to fight them as and when it needs.